Hey, Fright Nights, how you doing? It's your old pal Count Jackula from the planet Dracula, and well, I noticed a lot of you after the last vlog had a few questions. Number one of which is, "Hey man, is these vlogs going to replace the regular Count Jackula show?" Well, the answer is no, no, it's not. What these vlogs are really called is we thought it'd be a good idea to put something out every week while we got our fucking act together. And that fucking man, sometimes like a script looked like it just gonna come along and then it doesn't. And so yeah, let me tell you a little bit about before we talk about the movie. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on. Here's what's going on. Basically, coming out of the holidays is always rough, and I started working on a couple of scripts. One of which was Event Horizon, the other one which was The Woman, and those were the Event Horizon script was getting really, 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 really complex and big, and was requiring a lot of stuff. And I'm like, oh, we got to pare this down. Um, which is requiring some work and a lot of hard decisions. And I was just like, oh fuck, like I don't want to go another week and not put something up. And so that's when I put up the vlog on the Den, because I had just seen that movie. I was like, well, just go put fucking something up. The next, then I started working on The Woman. Like, oh man, Event Horizon is like, this is like taking way too long. Let's start another. Let's work on The Woman, because I've been working on that off and on for the last like while, and then that started falling down a rabbit hole because I discovered that there was a director's commentary track, but only on, excuse me, but only on the UK version of the DVD. So I had to get that and listen to it. And a lot of information I'm working into the script. It means completely going back and like redoing a bunch of shit. And it's a lot of writing, and writing, oh, it takes time. It's always been the thing that took the longest. Once a thing is written, shooting it, that's a couple of days. If there are a lot of effects, might take a week. Editing usually takes another couple of days, and we never really like perfected that workflow to the point where we do it like every week. And even like doing it every other week felt like, god, we're not there's not enough happening. So I took a page from uh Cinema Snob Brad Jones, where he's like, hey, there's always new shit. I've always got new shit going. For a while, like you weren't getting like Cinema Snob episodes, you're getting like vlog, Cinema Snob, vlog, Cinema Snob, like it kind of alternate for a little bit. And then he got into this flow where he was just like, okay, well now we're doing it like real super regular, but like we still kind of miss stuff occasionally because sometimes the movie I really want to talk about, blah 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 blah. And that seemed to work really well because everyone, look guys, I got no illusions. These vlogs are to get you over the hump to the next episode. We all fucking know that. Y'all might be. I'm sure there are a bunch of you who are just like, oh no, just fucking review movies, dude. Like, we don't fucking comedy. Who cares? Oh, I care about comedy, but I also care about just entertaining people. So I felt like it'd be a good idea to just get something up every week. So, what are we doing this week? Well, this week we're reviewing Mr. Jones, which is a movie that is now on Netflix Instant, and wow. Ugh. Okay, quick capsule review. Spoilers, the movie kind of shits the bed in the last act. But before that happens, it's actually going really strong. Like, here's the setup. Couple moves out in the middle of nowhere because the dude's going to do a nature documentary. He's put everything else on hold. He's put his wife's career on hold, which she has agreed to do to get out here and like do this documentary. And he falls into a super fucking depression and he can't do shit. He's just like, God, what do I do? Like, he's got no inspiration. He's got nothing. But he's too prideful to just say, it's a bad idea. Let's fucking bail, move back to LA. So he doesn't know what to do. Like, his wife is starting to like lose a lot of respect for him, get really resentful. The whole relationship is starting to fall apart. Everything is bad. And he runs across this dude who steals his bag. Like he's like, wait, you're stealing my shit. Oh, by the way, this movie is done in this pseudo, not quite found footage style. Like it starts out, it looks like it's gonna be a found footage movie. It's not. It's just they're just setting up the fact that the guy is running around with a camera trying to do a documentary because if you don't have that, like the whole story revolves around the fact that he's trying to discover this thing. Did it have to be done as found footage in the beginning? I don't know, but it was actually kind of interesting. Like I said before, I'm one of those guys. I don't mind found footage movies. The only problem I have with them is sometimes I get a little fucking nauseous from them because like sometimes that handheld is a little too handheld. It's like, oh man, look, I know it's supposed to be like a cheap production, but can we steady cam this a little bit? Like, holy crap. This doesn't do that. Like, it's just sort of like a guy. We're going through the dude's footage, because he's putting together this documentary about this dude who steals his bag when he is trying to film his nature documentary. So he follows this guy. Now this couple has bought like this huge property, like out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like it's like they got like acres and acres and acres for like a song. Relatively, they still sunk everything they had into it, but like you could, it's a place where you could conceive like getting a huge amount of land for like relatively cheap. So he follows this figure to a house on his property, and he's like, "What? What the fuck? Why is this guy living on my property?" And then he starts running into these scarecrows that like the dude has put up, and they're made out of like dead animal parts and like other fucking shit that this guy's obviously found in the area. And he's like, "What the fuck?" So he goes back to his wife and shows her the footage of like, what the fuck is this shit? Like this guy on our property. Hey, hon, I need you to. We're gonna sneak into this guy's house, which you're like, why would you do that? Like, why don't you just knock on the guy's door and be like, yo, what's up? Because the guy has taken his bag, but it's not like the guy is like obviously threatening. So why wouldn't you just be like, knock, knock, yo, what the fuck? Where's my shit? But anyway, he decides he's gonna sneak into the house. And as soon as they get on the property, like the wife's demeanor completely fucking changes. And she's like, oh my God, look at this. She's looking at the scarecrows. She's looking at other sculptures. She's like, oh my God, oh my God. She just becomes enraptured. And you're like, what is going on? And at this point, she's like, no, 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 we got to keep looking. We got to keep exploring. And she gets like kind of into it. And you're like, well, this is a big turnaround. So they're in the house, they're looking around, they get into the guy's workshop, where he makes shit. And like at this point, she's just completely enraptured, like she has to see things. And the husband's definitely is doing the same thing. Like, so they're both in on it at this point. They're totally breaking and entering this guy's house. But, they're kind of like bolstered by the fact that they kind of own the property. Um, and the guy comes back. There's a scene where they're like running through the house trying to avoid the dude. And they get out, and the wife is really super fucking excited. She's like, I know who this guy is. I know who this guy is. And, he's like, who? She's like, he's Mr. Jones. Get some backstory on what that fucking means, which is apparently there is this, in this world, there's this dude called Mr. Jones who's like this artist who sends random scarecrows to people that he's made. Like random people would just get a fucking crate in the mail, like gallery owners, art critics, some random dude from a bar in like California. In fucking in New England somewhere. So he's sending them like all over the place, and no one knows who the guy is or why he does it, but they can tell it's the same guy just because the work is so similar. They're like, is it one guy? Is it a bunch of guys? And this one art critic just starts referring to him as Mr. Jones, and it sticks. And nobody knows who it fucking is. So this would be like discovering who Banksy is for really real. Just flat out for really real. Like no ifs, ands, or buts. This is him. This is the guy. So it'll be huge in the art world. So they decide that's what the documentary is now going to be about. It makes a lot of sense. You know, this nature documentary thing is fucking bullshit, but we got a real thing here that like people might actually be interested in, at least in the context of the fucking world. So the husband like goes back to New York. He starts interviewing people about Mr. Jones. You know, he flies over to fucking like California and shit, like just interviewing guys. And like this one dude, the dude from the bar, is like, yeah, hi. Like he's super weird and like kind of spacey and doesn't like really like. He can't decide whether he wants to be interviewed or not. And everyone else is like, all the art critics and the art gallery guys are like, oh yeah, fucking yeah, let me tell you about Mr. Jones and blah 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 blah. They're just willing to talk. This guy is not so willing to talk. And he's like, why? He's like, yeah, weird dreams, man. Which the other people had reported. They had reported weird dreams, but like they're like, yeah, fuck it, weird dreams, whatever. This guy's really affected by it. And he's like, no, you don't understand, man. Like these dreams, they keep fucking happening. He's like, well, did you get rid of it? He's like, yeah. What happened? I'm still dreaming now. Are you real? And at this point, you're like, that's kind of cool. Like, that's kind of neat. So they get into all this stuff that I just really fucking love, like totem poles and scarecrows and shamanism and and all this sort of stuff. And I'm loving it. I am loving this movie for 2 acts. It gets to the point where like Mr. Jones is trying to like get into their goddamn house. And like because the husband has stolen something from him, he's like, like I fucking need that back. Mr. Jones never talks, by the way. He's just like, just like this cloaked figure that fucking like just he's got a weird mask on. The wife runs into him at some point and he just says nothing. He's just like, it's like, hi, I'm a real big fan of your work. Um, yeah, so would you care to be interviewed? They do a good job because he feels the actor, the way he's like moving, he feels like a crow. It's on black. He's got this big thing. It could almost be wing. His cloak could almost be wings. He's got this like black mask on that you can't fucking see his face. His moves are kind of like sudden and a little jerky. Like a bird. So that stuff is really fucking cool. They get to the point where like reality starts to kind of dissolve. Like they don't know what's going on. Like, is it magic? Are they going crazy? Are they high and they don't realize it? Like you have no idea what's going on. And at this point, like the movie goes very fluidly in the second act from like found footage to traditional movie. But it keeps moving between them, and part of what keeps you off balance and what's really cool about it is that you notice it but you don't. Like you can tell it's happening but you feel like it's part of the movie, it's part of the plot. Like, oh shit, what's real? Am I actually watching a documentary that's supposed to have been made by someone, or what's going on? And everything is building, and it's everything is turning into like this psychodrama about like the guy and his wife, and like this guy outside is trying to get in, and it's really fucking cool. And at the height, when everything is going craziest, the movie shits the bed. How does it shit the bed? During all this craziness, spoilers, the wife screams, the nightmare world is coming through to the real world. The minute that she says that, all tension drains out. There's no mystery anymore. You know exactly how this is going to go. The husband's going to turn out to be Mr. Jones the whole time, and it's like his shadow double is some shit. and there's nothing to discover. You're like, why did you? The thing is you knew instinctively that's what was happening. You know, you as an audience member, an astute one, particularly if you're like, you like Silent Hill or the games, not the movies, or like shit like that. You kind of you like this kind of like reality bending. Like, is it a dream? Is it a hallucination? Is it real? What is real? What's a dream? Is it both? Who knows? Like that kind of uncertainty is really, really, really cool. And the minute it becomes concrete that this is what's happening, you're just like, wow. Well, now nothing matters because that question's been answered. Because that's the thing keeping you off balance. It's sort of like in the middle of a roller coaster, someone basically goes, "Okay, yeah, since you're not going to actually die anyway, let's just slow everything down and stabilize the whole coaster, and we're just going to go forward at a nice even pace." You're like, "What the fuck? That was not even the point." That was not even the point. And at that point, it's just really. There's some other things that happen in that third act that are a little cool, but the problem is they don't matter. There's a really cool like visual sequence involving like the wife and her shadow double, which kind of like goes into like their relationship a little bit. The problem is it doesn't matter because you're like, yeah, we know the guy's now going to be Mr. Jones. And if he isn't already, he's going to be by the end of the movie. One of the problems that the movie has, even with the reveal of who Mr. Jones is, because it happens really fucking quick, at least the initial reveal. Like, when you look at the movie, it is entirely possible that Mr. Jones is a totally separate dude, but by the end of the story, you know the husband is going to be his replacement. If he isn't already just that guy, and it's a time travel fucking thing. Man, that. Oh, and the problem with that reveal is the fact that the lead actor is not. He's not a bad looking guy. He's perfectly fine looking guy. But that's the problem. He's perfectly fine looking. So you're just sort of like, all right, traditionally handsome guy. So when the guy's mask, Mr. Jones's mask, actually comes off, you're like, is that him? Is that? Let's go back. Is it? Is it him? I think it's him. Might be another actor. I huh. I I I well, he turns into Mr. Jones by the end of the movie, so it might as well be him. But like, there's nothing really visually striking about this guy. The wife is much more visually striking. Like she's she's a body type you don't see as often in movies, which is this. She's a little shapelier, but not like super super gorgeous. But like, you know, you look at her and you could easily pick her out of a crowd. She's not like, I mean, she's really 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 pretty, but not like cover girl pretty. Like, she's a little short, her torso's a little long, and you kind of immediately get this like impression of what her body looks like. So you could pick her out. So she's visually kind of, you pick her out. Of course, it doesn't hurt that like, she's a little chesty, and so and she wears low cut outfits, and so like you're just sort of like, okay, bam, I have, not to be a jerk about it, but like now I have something that I can visually recognize this character by, which is she's short, long torso, big tits. You got it. The dude is sort of like, I think he has curly hair, he has a beard, he's kind of good looking. even really, really, really stupid good looking, like Hollywood television actors usually have something about them that you can like grasp onto. Like, let's take Supernatural as an example. What is it about Jensen Ackles in that show that you remember? Well, he's kind of gruff, and he looks a little gruff. I mean, he's a super pretty boy, but like, you get the feeling this character is gruff. He's got, the way he dresses, the way he stands, you know, he has a very distinct look, even though he could easily just completely blend into the background. But his performance puts forth this character, and he's very good at it. Jared Padalecki, he plays Sam. What's his thing? He's tall as shit. He's tall as shit, and a little wide eyed, you know and when they stand next to each other, you have an immediate contrast, and so you're like, that's them's the Winchester boys, we know this. Problem with the main character, Mr. Jones, is that you don't have anything to really identify this guy. I mean, like, he's a beard, hair, kind of good looking, wears flannel, and in today, that's nothing. Like, that doesn't give you something to really latch onto visually. And you need that if the reveal of Mr. Jones is going to be, it's him, but it's going to be totally silent and only for a moment. That's why, like, usually, like for instance, like, there are a lot of movies that will do things like that, but they'll give you something that you can like latch onto. Like, the person has blue hair, or they have a certain item on them. That's why often, like, they'll spend a lot of time establishing like a specific looking ring or something, and you'll just be like, oh, so when the hand comes out, you're like, oh my god, it's his hand, like, because he's wearing the ring, or and stuff like that. This movie doesn't really do that, because you're like, well, who's the main character? Oh, he's the guy with the camera. That's probably actually the other problem, now that I think about it, is the fact that he's the guy holding the camera the majority of the time. So we don't get a lot of time to get to know what is unique about his features and his face. So if the reveal is supposed to be, well, Mr. Jones is him, which I'm pretty sure it is, you're like, oh, it's wait, what does our guy look like again? I don't think we've seen him that much. We see him enough, but like, eh, eh. So overall, Mr. Jones was kind of disappointing. Uh, really good first two acts. One really awful sour note moment. Nightmare World's coming through. That reminds, speaking of Supernatural, that felt, I've said this before, but like, there's an episode of Supernatural where they're on a movie set, and Dean is loving being on this movie set. Like, he's just great PA material, because he's like, yeah, get anything done. Let's fucking do it. You see what these are? They're mini cheesesteaks. They're like little cheesesteak sandwiches. Eat them, they're fucking delicious. Actually, I don't think he says fucking, but it feels like he should be. And part of what happens in that episode is they do a dig at producers and writers, and like bad producers and bad writers. And one of the moments is they're trying to do this scene where the movie within the episode is a haunting movie. And they're like, all right, we have to summon the ghost. We have to do this ritual. And the producer, who's played by fucking Lumberg from The Office. If you could do that, that'd be great. That guy. He's played by him. And that guy's been in a bunch of stuff. Like, he's a genre veteran. So he's, God, I used to know the actor's name. I'm so scatterbrained sometimes. Oh well. I guess that's what you get with a blog. Anyway, so the movie in the episode's doing this haunting thing, and all of a sudden he turns to the director and goes, "How do ghosts hear?" The director's like, "What? Yeah, how do ghosts hear? Are people going to be confused by the fact that the ghost can hear this ritual happening? Maybe we need a line about like super hearing." And later on in the episode, where they're refilming the scene, they go like, "How do ghosts hear the ritual? Maybe they've got super hearing." And like the producer's like what? No one questions how a ghost hears a ritual intended to summon it. Nobody questions it. But like that line, the nightmare world is bleeding into the real world. That felt like, well, we don't want to lose the audience. But the narrative structure of this story is intended to keep the audience off balance. So if you give them that thing to latch onto, mystery goes away. There's no point in watching anymore. You're like, okay, we're done. So, like, why would you do that? Why do that? I think it's because I think people don't understand sometimes that that kind of shit is antithetical to the story you're trying to tell. There is a screenwriting guy, Robert McGee, or I think it's Robert McGee. Oh shit, me and names today. I am so sorry. So we'll just say his name's Robert McGee. Robert McGee says often what happens at the screenwriting phase and what can cause a screenplay to fail is not picking the right genre or blend of genres. You need to know what genre you're in and use the tools of that genre. So, if your genre is a off-balance thriller, you don't want to tell people the mystery only 2/3 of the way in, unless you are going to suddenly switch it up and make it another mystery. You know, like, why does a Sixth Sense work? It's a mystery story. The fact that Bruce Willis' ghost um is actually very secondary to everything. I mean, it's the big thing everyone remembers, right? Because what's the actual mystery? A kid talks to ghosts. There's other stuff that's happening. It doesn't really matter. Bruce Willis is a ghost. That's the story. But the structure is a mystery tale. So if you just started out with Bruce Willis as a ghost, he doesn't know this. Like if you just said that, there'd be no movie. No one would care. And that's essentially what happens with Mr. Jones. The nightmare world's bleeding into the real one. It's trying to get through. Well, there goes all the tension. It's really too bad because it was really good too. It was going really strong. I don't fucking get it. Man, what a waste. What a waste. Like one line ruined that movie. One line ruined that movie. That's remarkable. It's really remarkable. You could tell these people were capable of so much more. Like they just if you want a lesson in how to ruin what would otherwise be a super awesome movie, yeah, watch Mr. Jones. because you're probably gonna have the same reaction I do. Like you could be watching it, you could be like, "Oh man, this is cool. This is cool. Like, cool stuff is happening. A little Blair Witchy, but not really." It's obviously not Blair Witch, even though like the scarecrows look very Blair Witchy. And in fact, that original fucking poster was obviously supposed to be like, "Oh, it's like the Blair Witch, right?" It's nothing like Blair Witch. It's nothing like it. And in fact, they changed the cover recently when it went up on Netflix, and now that cover is way more appropriate. It's just a guy turning into a tree. Which that's a metaphor. That does not literally happen. Um, but it's a good movie up until that moment, and it's still a good movie after that moment. The problem is now it doesn't matter because now you're not thinking about it anymore. You got to keep thinking about it, otherwise, it's like, oh, we have an answer. Oh, okay, all right, cool, thanks, bye. Boom. Uh, so in conclusion, Mr. Jones, if you want a good lesson in like how to ruin a moment, watch the movie. If you even if you want a good example of how to like set up like a decently cool what's real, what's not movie, Mr. Jones is good for that. You can get a lot of information out of this kind of movie. Like, if you're interested in the way film does things, like, hey, yeah, there's a lot to learn here. It's just really too bad because I'm watching that thing for like an hour going, whoa, why aren't people talking about this movie? Why aren't people talking about this movie? This movie is great. Oh my God. Oh, that's why people aren't talking about this movie. Because that happened. Oh, it's really too fucking bad. Really too fucking bad. Well, Fright Nights, just let you know, yeah, you're not. Yeah, are we going to continue doing these vlogs? Yes. Are they the only thing that we're going to be doing? No. No, we're going back to the regular show. Um, there will be an announcement on Twitter, outcount_Jackula.com. Like, when it's like, hey, another full episode's coming out, we will completely fucking announce it. Want everyone to know that it's happening. It'll be cool. It will be super fucking cool. But until then, I guess I will see you guys later. I'll see you next week, come hell or high water, whichever version of the show we're going to watch. We'll see. It depends on how things happen. Right now, I'm working on a script for Zombie Lake. Will that be the next one? Will it be Event Horizon? Will it be The Woman? Stay tuned and find out.